and welcome. It's a brand new week and you're watching the show that's not just about being interesting but telling you what is in your interest. I'm Padmaja Joshi, and what do we have? A point of interest today for you. Every year, every single year, it's the same lament from Deepavali to Maha Kumbh. Why these grand celebrations? Do they feed the poor? Well, yes, they do. So it's time to shut down this pretend outrage. We will also tell you how the biggest mockery of democracy and its basic tenets is playing out in the United States. With one flourish of the pen, the very tenets of law, of justice are being undermined. Yes, America mein संविधान खतरे में है. And why is the ed tech sector so unfit? Are students just to be abandoned with zero accountability? A question that lakhs of students across India are asking today. But first up, we're going to start with Uttar Pradesh and a grand celebration, a grand spectacle that is currently underway there. The Maha Kumbh in Prayagraj in Uttar Pradesh is one of the biggest and holiest of gatherings for Hindu faithfuls worldwide. In the last 15 days, since the start of Kumbh, 12 crore, yes, you heard that right, 12 crore people have already taken a dip in the Triveni Sangam. Just for perspective, 2.5 crores is roughly the population of all of Delhi, but in the Kumbh, 12 crore people have taken a dip in the last 15 days. As of today, all roads seem to lead to Prayagraj. Young and old, rich and poor, common man to the most powerful. Today, Home Minister Amit Shah was at the Maha Kumbh with his family for a holy dip. He did aarti at the bank of the river and got blessings of saints and seers for his grandson as well. But he isn't the only one. In the last fortnight, people across the political spectrum have headed to Prayagraj, irrespective of the brand of politics. Even Samajwadi Party chief Akhilesh Yadav, who had questioned the figures of the number of devotees who have visited that were put out by the state government, finally became one of those visiting devotees himself. On Sunday, he took a dip at the Sangam. But just as we thought that these boundaries of politics and ideology were finally melting away, Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge today chipped in at the Jai Bhim Jai Samvidhan rally. He asked whether a dip in the Ganga could create jobs, or whether people who are competing with each other to reach the Sangam can actually get rid of hunger in the country.
अरे भाई, गंगा में डुबकी लेने से गरीबी दूर होती क्या? आपको खाना मिलता पेट को? मैं किसी की आस्था के ऊपर ठोस नहीं लगाना चाहता हूं. अगर किसी को दुख हुआ तो मैं माफी चाहता हूं, लेकिन आप बताइए, अरे जब बच्चा भूखा मर रहा है, बच्चा स्कूल में नहीं जा रहा है, मजदूरों को मजदूरी नहीं मिल रही है, जब ये है तो ये लोग जाकर हजारों रुपए खर्च करके कंपटीशन पे डुबकियां मार रहे. कंपटीशन में एक डुबकी मारता दूसरा, और जब तक वो टीवी में अच्छा नहीं आता तब तक डुबकी मारते रहते.
आज मल्लिकार्जुन खड़गे जी ने कहा, क्या गंगा में डुबकी लगाने से गरीबी दूर हो जाएगी? क्या गंगा में डुबकी लगाने से लोगों को नौकरी मिल जाएगी? क्या गंगा में डुबकी लगाने से लोग खुश हो जाएंगे और देश सही चलेगा? ये लोग हजारों रुपए खर्च करके पता नहीं क्यों गंगा में जाके डुबकी लगाते हैं और कंपटीशन करते हैं डुबकी लगाने की. मैं आज चैलेंज करता हूं कि मल्लिकार्जुन खड़गे जी और कांग्रेस पार्टी, राहुल गांधी और सोनिया जी किसी और धर्म की आस्था के विषय में ऐसा कह सकते हैं? क्या वो कह सकते हैं कि इफ्तार पार्टी में जाने से गरीबी दूर हो जाती है या लोगों को नौकरी मिल जाती है? किसी और धर्म के आस्था को लेकर वो खिलवाड़ करने की सोच भी नहीं सकते हैं और ऐसी बयानबाजी कर भी नहीं सकते.
The funny thing is that this is a question, this is a debate that surfaces every single time, again and again. Whenever there is a grand celebration of any Hindu festival, there will be those who will jump up to call it wasteful expenditure and ask, does it feed the hungry? Does it feed the hungry? Well, the simple answer to that is yes, it does. What is often ignored about such massive religious gatherings is the economic impact they have. According to visa processing platform Atlas, there has been a 21.4% rise in inbound travel purely for spiritual purposes in India, and that has largely been driven by the Maha Kumbh. And when people come, so does revenue. 45 crore people are expected to visit the Maha Kumbh between the 13th of January and the 26th of February. The per capita spending is expected as a result to rise to 10,000 rupees. Yes, the spend on the Kumbh this time is also the highest so far. Budget estimates this year stand at 7,500 crore rupees for organizing the Maha Kumbh. 5,400 crores will be borne by the Uttar Pradesh government and 2,100 crores by the centre. It's this figure, the 7,500 crore budget, that has invited snark about what a waste spending on religious events is. Well, first of all, celebrating anyone's faith in itself is part of the religious diversity that is enshrined in the Constitution. That aside, let's talk about the trade. Let's talk about the money that will come in. The Confederation of All India Traders, or CAIT, has estimated that this Maha Kumbh will generate trade exceeding 2 lakh crore rupees. To explain this figure, they estimate that local hotels, guest houses, temporary lodging, etc. will generate 40,000 crore rupees. Even though many charities have arranged for free food for the devotees, for other visitors who will be buying stuff, packaged foods, meals, all of this is estimated to contribute 20,000 crore rupees. Then people will have to buy religious items like idols. There will be oil that they will offer. Religious books will be bought. All of this accounts for another 20,000 crore rupees in revenue. Transportation and logistics, tourism services, they will contribute 10,000 crore rupees each. Handicrafts, local souvenirs, healthcare services, all of these are services which are going to ensure that money comes into Prayagraj, money comes into Uttar Pradesh, and money comes into the country. The point is that right now the Maha Kumbh is literally an entire new district. It's been designated a new district, and the earnings will also be commensurate. The better the arrangements, the more people will be encouraged to visit, the bigger the boost to the economy of the state. And it's not just the earnings. It would also generate jobs. 6 to 7 lakh temporary jobs will be generated. And who will be most benefited? The local artisans, over 2 lakh artisans and vendors, local vendors. They will get unprecedented national and international exposure, and they will get money. This is a source of revenue for them. In 2019, the state government, the UP government, had said that the Kumbh that year contributed 1.2 lakh crores to the state's economy. They had a footfall of around 24 crores. Now that number is estimated to go up to 40 crores. The visitors will go up exponentially, and the outcome, the money earned naturally, will also be more rewarding. For long, there has been an impression of how any expenditure on temples, pilgrimages, places of worship in general was wasteful, and a developing country could ill afford it. That impression was wrong. The willful neglect of such places is what kept devotees away, and the holiest of sites fell into a vicious circle of neglect and disuse. Now, how things have changed. Last year, within months of its inauguration, the Ram Temple in Ayodhya overtook the Taj Mahal as Uttar Pradesh's top tourist attraction. Remember, even for the Ram Temple, many people said, what's the point of having a temple anymore? You should put up an industry there, make a library, make a hospital. Well, the point is that it drew people. For the 12.51 crore tourists who visited the Taj in Agra, 13.55 crore people visited Ayodhya. And the point is not to have a competition. It's not to say that, oh, the temple is better than the Taj Mahal or the Maha Kumbh is better than anything else. The point is that centers of faith like Ayodhya and Prayagraj can be huge centers of business, of commerce, of exposure, create jobs, if only they are given the chance to show up in all their glory. The faithful and the money will follow. All right, for long we've been talking about the United States of America, and the wonders never cease. One after the other, a flurry of orders, and all these orders which draw equal amount of scrutiny onto America.
I was surprised that President Biden would go and pardon his whole family, because that makes him look very guilty. You know, I could have pardoned my family. I could have pardoned myself, my family. I said, if I do that, it's going to make me look very guilty. I don't think I'd be sitting here, frankly. If I did that, I don't think I'd be sitting here right now, because I would have shown that you're guilty.
Well, that was Donald Trump expressing shock over his predecessor Joe Biden pardoning his family members from preemptive prosecution just minutes before handing over the keys of the White House to Trump. But guess what? Biden is in August company. He's in the company of Trump himself. It is true that Joe Biden now is a record holder in presidential pardons with a whopping 8,064 clemency actions against his name. His successor, Donald Trump, also has a total pardon count at 1,737. This includes the approximate 1,500 pardons he handed out on his first day back in office, plus 237 pardons from his previous term. So here is how things stand. In total, leaders in the United States have granted clemency more than 45,000 times. Joe Biden, like I said, is now a part of history. He has gone down in history as the president to have handed the maximum pardons. On the other side, Donald Trump fulfilled his poll promise and gave full pardon to all the rioters who were incarcerated for the January 6, 2021 insurrection at the Temple of Democracy in America, the US Capitol. So you would argue, what's the big deal? The numbers may vary, but every US president has engaged in this forgiving act, except that this time Joe Biden did something very, very unusual. He issued preemptive pardons to an array of people even before the handover of power, which makes him the first president to have pardoned people who haven't even been charged, who are not even declared suspects by law enforcement of any wrongdoing. They literally don't have a case against them, and yet they have been pardoned by Joe Biden, which makes one ask, what message does it send about the former US president's belief in the US justice system itself? Biden, of course, justified this by saying that he wanted to protect people who don't deserve to be targets of unjustified and politically motivated prosecutions. But let's face it, this list includes most of his friends and family, people who were loyal to him. For example, retired General Mark Milley, the former Joint Chiefs of Staff, who had publicly shared concerns about Trump's mental stability and national security concerns. Trump had once suggested that Milley should be executed. Then there's Anthony Fauci, Biden's former chief medical advisor, who oversaw the Biden administration's handling of COVID, and his claims on masking and lockdown were widely criticized. His handling of the pandemic was hugely criticized. Members of the House committee that investigated the January 6, 2021 insurrection of the US Capitol have also been let go. And what takes the cake is Biden's clemency to 5 members of his own family, including 3 siblings, as well as their spouses. Last month, in addition to all of this, he pardoned his son Hunter, who was found guilty of gun-related charges. Remember, he was found guilty of gun-related charges in Delaware and pleaded guilty. He himself pled guilty to tax evasion in California, but he goes scot-free because, well, pardoned. Imagine now, if those convicted in attacking the Indian Parliament were to be given full pardon, or if a Prime Minister in India were to say that my son will be absolved from any kind of legal scrutiny despite the fact that he has pleaded guilty. Why? Simply because he believes, he thinks that this prosecution is a witch hunt. Are we then to believe that the presidents of the United States, past and present, don't have faith in their own courts and their own justices and their own justice system? Even if Trump, hypothetically, was to bring in false cases against people linked to the Biden administration and his family, isn't it the job of courts to ensure that any such fake prosecution is stopped in its tracks or that it is overturned? There are hundreds of such parallels in India, where people related to politicians, to leaders, to MPs, even to the Prime Minister, have been tried and have gone through the whole legal process, sometimes convicted, sometimes the proceedings stopped by our courts. History suggests that there is only one instance of such a preemptive pardon. It happened in 1974 when President Gerald Ford pardoned his predecessor Richard Nixon after his resignation over the Watergate scandal. Nixon was not charged or convicted of any criminal offense at that time. Essentially, Ford pardoned Nixon for offenses he may have committed or may be charged with in the future. The pardon power was written into the US Constitution when it was drafted in 1787. The only constitutional limitations on the president's pardon are that it cannot include those who have violated a state law and it cannot absolve anyone who has been successfully impeached. So the Congress cannot override this pardon and the Supreme Court will have no grounds for declaring it unconstitutional. But can a power that was essentially meant for national reconciliation be used so flagrantly, so blatantly for personal and political purposes? You are literally pardoning your friends and family. And if such a misuse takes place, can the United States of America really take a moral high stand and tell the world how to run their affairs and how they should uphold the tenets of democracy, when the US itself is subverting the very basics of democracy, like the justice system? I'm sorry, it's 2025 and this simply does not fly. Back home in India, the question of students again, is anyone thinking of them? Is anyone speaking for them? Or it's going to be a familiar story where education startups, education institutes simply don't give 2 cents about the lives and future of millions of students who rely on them. The latest to join this depressing bandwagon is FIITJEE, FIITJEE. Students and their parents are now protesting against this popular education institute across Delhi and the National Capital Region after multiple centers were simply shut down. No proper notice, not even a whisper of a refund. And remember, this comes at a time when exams are on the horizon and it's a body blow for those who are preparing for competitive exams like the IIT joint entrance exam. Multiple FIRs have been filed and police have even booked the owner and other stakeholders. But of what use is that? Because look at the amount of damage this has inflicted. FIITJEE has 72 centers spread across 41 cities in India. Of these, multiple centers across 5 states have been shut. This includes Delhi NCR, Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh and West Bengal. In each center, student numbers could be anywhere. It ranges from 200 in Patna to 2,000 in Noida. Since the total number of centers or the students affected have not been disclosed fully, it's safe to say that at the very least 10,000, 50,000 students are caught in a bind as the IIT mains are expected this April. And just take a look at the amount invested by their families. A 2-year course could cost nearly 4 to 5 lakhs. That's a sufficient economic burden for the students and their families.
It is internally, it was pre-decided that this thing is going to happen. So because एक दिन हमारे पास ऐसे ये मैसेज आता है through WhatsApp कि things are okay, just don't go with the rumors that are spreading around. And अगले दिन तुरंत मैसेज आता है from the faculties कि we are like resigning and we are joining Akash and children are most welcome to join Akash.
डिमांड यही है कि हमारा पैसा वापस किया जाए जो इन्होंने हमारे बच्चों के साथ, हमारे बच्चों के करियर के साथ जो इन्होंने खिलवाड़ किया है।
इस तरीके से बंद कर दिया अचानक, तो बच्चा कहाँ जाए, कैसे करे। और सारी फीसें ले चुके हैं। एक 11th में है मेरा बच्चा लास्ट में, और 12th की भी पूरी फीस ये ले चुके हैं।
बच्चे का करियर पूरी तरीके से खराब है।
अगर कोई
कॉन्स्पिरेसी है तो आप हमें कम्युनिकेट तो करिए, वो पेरेंट्स से बात क्यों नहीं कर रहे हैं? अगर वो उनके पास मान लीजिए सेंटर भी बंद हो गया है, आप ऑल्टरनेट ऑनलाइन क्लासेस चला सकते हैं, आप मेल्स डालिए कि उनका प्लान क्या है, 10 दिन 15 दिन कब रीस्टार्ट करेंगे। प्रॉब्लम ये है कि पेरेंट्स को कोई कम्युनिकेशन ही नहीं आ रहा है FIITJEE की तरफ से, एंड आई थिंक ही इज एब्सकॉन्डिंग और ही इज नॉट अवेलेबल।
What has FIITJEE said? They said we haven't closed any center as a part of our own decision. It happened because of overnight desertion of the center by the center managing partner and the entire team, and company officials are working to resume operations within a reasonable time. What is this reasonable time? You barely have 2 months left for the entrance exams to take place. Imagine at such a stressful period, you simply shut shop and disappear. This may be the official line, but there are other factors at play that precipitated the current crisis. Administrative and civic action taken against its branches for violating licensing and fire safety rules. That's why several centers have shut down. In fact, several teachers earlier quit en masse because their salaries hadn't been paid for months. The annual income of teachers in the institute ranges between 15 lakhs to 2 crores. FIITJEE simply didn't pay up, and now they're saying it wasn't in our hands. FIITJEE has also been accused of diverting their funds to businesses other than the coaching centers. Incidentally, a survey firm, Local Circles, spoke to over 10,000 parents from 241 districts. This report that was published last Friday has some startling trends. 38% of the parents claim that promises were not kept and transparency issues existed in the institutes. 21% said we simply don't get the refunds even when we ask for them. 21% questioned the very teaching methods, and 20% said we face all of the above issues. It really is a hellhole. So why is there this trend of top private educational institutes just shutting down? They are in the news for all the wrong reasons. Many companies relied heavily on venture capital to sustain their operations. But when investment was tightened, then funds began to get misused and there was a severe cash crunch. Student dropout rates have also soared, especially in online courses. And a lack of structured schedules and face-to-face interactions has only led to further disengagement. Both online and offline edtech companies are facing increased scrutiny from the Indian government regulatory issues which have been flouted on regular intervals. As edtech companies expand, the cost of content creation and technology has skyrocketed. Many companies have had to raise their prices, which makes their services unaffordable for large portions of the student population. Now, the immediate cause for concern is obviously on how to ensure that the exams in April are not affected and the money invested does not go down the drain. Can the 3-decade-old company get its house in order before the fire singes the aspirations of thousands of students? And if they don't do it on their own, the Indian government has to step in. It's not just about regulatory issues, about the non-payment of salaries, but they can't simply disappear and literally leave all of these young students in the lurch. Well, that brings us to the end of the show that is in your interest. But remember, this is the time that you have to keep your appointment every day. See you at 8.
You work too hard. Work smart like me.
Why? Won a lottery, is it?
You can say so. I'm investing in a great scheme in the share market. High returns guaranteed.
Your high returns aren't Karan Arjun for them to definitely come to you.
Meaning?
Dad, there's risk involved in the share market. Nobody can promise guaranteed high returns. It's illegal to do so.
Really?
Yeah.
सोच कर, समझ कर, इन्वेस्ट कर।
ये बड़ा होके मम्मी का, पापा का, दादू का सबका ध्यान रखेगा।
रिटायरमेंट के बाद किसी पे बोझ ना बनने का परफेक्ट प्लान। कैनरा HSBC लाइफ इंश्योरेंस रिटायरमेंट प्लान। कैनरा HSBC लाइफ इंश्योरेंस, प्रॉमिसेस का पार्टनर।
What is to the nines? In literal terms, it's perfection. But to us, it's not just a phrase, it's an attitude. One that starts at your desk and sends a statement to the world. To the Nines is about taking charge. It's a way of life where every seam, every fold, is crafted with excellence. It's timeless elegance and uncompromising quality made for the corner office. It's the ideas that inspire redefining order and elevating the tabletop. To the Nines, for the leaders of today and the visionaries of tomorrow.
Waqf Amendment Bill cleared by the Joint Parliamentary Committee, 14 amendments approved. A man-eater tiger that killed a woman 2 days ago was found dead in Kerala's high-range district of Wayanad. In the Anna University sexual assault case, the Supreme Court stays action against Tamil Nadu police over FIR leak. A man suspected to have contracted the Guillain-Barré syndrome or GBS has died in Maharashtra's Solapur district. Clashes between Dhaka University and affiliated colleges students leave many injured. Escalating tensions, all classes and examinations suspended. Congolese M23 rebels enter the center of the eastern city of Goma. Rebels claim that they have seized the key city in eastern Congo. Thousands flee into Rwanda as fighting intensifies. Amit Shah at Maha Kumbh takes the holy dip at the Triveni Sangam. Shah was joined in by UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath, Yoga Guru Baba Ramdev. In a historic step, Uttarakhand becomes the first state in the country to implement the Uniform Civil Code or UCC after independence. Bengaluru's Cubbon Park allows traffic in the park on the 2nd and 4th Saturdays. Walkers oppose the plan. News9 campaign to save Cubbon Park gains support. At least 5 people killed and 31 injured in an LPG tanker truck blast in Pakistan's Multan province, local broadcaster Geo News reports. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar begins 3-day UAE visit, aims to boost bilateral ties. India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri and China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi hold talks in Beijing. The US and Colombia pull back from the brink of a trade war after the White House says the South American nation had agreed to accept military aircraft carrying deported migrants. US Homeland Security officials visit gurdwaras in New York and New Jersey to check for illegal immigrants.